Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Jaya Krishna Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Jaya Radhe Shyam Go Jai Guru Jai Srila Prabhupada Jai and Jai Vrindavan Dham Panchakopaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I missed you last week. Hare Krishna. So today we'll be jumping right into Shamasundar Prabhu's books. And those of you who have been following along, you'll see the similarities to Jamuna's and Guru Das's and Mukunda Maharaj's books. So we're jumping right in, and he's chanting these mantras, thus purifying our senses, which were originally Krishna conscious, but are now covered by the illusory energy of material nature. A mantra is made up of a glorifying word, generic, and one or more seed words, a name of the Lord, specific. For example, Hare, generic, means glory to the energy potency of Krishna, the Lord. Specific seed word, meaning the all-attractive. The generic words glorify the name, fame, pastimes, and activities of the Lord. Since God or Krishna is so kind, he has many names, and we of all nations, countries, and villages have taken to at least one in every language. In Hawaiian, it's Akua. The name for God is Akua. So in every language has a name for Krishna. But Krishna, it's so beautiful. Because the sun is called sol in Spanish and sun in English doesn't mean it is a different sun. Similarly, as there are many names of God, it is the same all-pervading Supreme Personality for all. Following a detailed description of English word equivalents and meanings for the Hare Krishna mantra, 4 other mantras, Jamuna wrote, "Please come and join us at the Arts Lab at 7 p.m. Wednesday and Friday nights, where we chant and dance in ecstasy. When we chant, we are at once on the spiritual plane. Come and bring your friends. Hare Krishna." We soon learned how to move around London on the double-decker buses and the tube and started separating to perform our individual services. The girls usually stayed behind at Herne Hill to do what they had to do. Malati had a 3-month-old baby, and on most days, the 3 men went into town together, went to the IT, which is International Times, or to Hustle. Some new lead, or I dropped Guru Das or Mukunda off somewhere, and we'd meet up later at the house. I bought some 2x2 poles at the timber merchant, got a green-gray canvas tarp from the ironmonger, and fashioned a canopy over the bed of the pickup. At least the precious passengers and cargo wouldn't get wet now. Because remember, he bought a little truck. There was only room for 2 in the front, and the rest of them piled in the back, and they were exposed to the elements. The last slideshow, we had a picture of that type of cute red truck, very antique. Some days we went over to Hyde Park Corner to have Sankirtan. We had been told that Hyde Park Corner was the one place in the kingdom that every citizen was free to say or do anything they liked. Because we remember they got thrown out of another location, so they're trying to figure out where they could do Harinam and not get thrown out. My redwood shipment from California arrived at King George V. Docks, and Tim, one of my new English boys from the Arts Lab, helped me haul it back and stack it behind the Kohli's house. Now, what had happened here is that before Shamasundar left, he bought a huge stack of redwood to make an altar for the temple that they didn't have yet, and he shipped it. So he's now collecting the wood and he's storing it. He's got a vision. They're really determined to make the temple. So now he's got the wood. Hare Krishna. Shamasundar has such an adventurous spirit. And as he said earlier, he said he's forcing Krishna's hand, having full faith in Krishna. Prabhupada wanted a temple. He's getting the wood. He's actually looking at pictures for temples already, how to build it. It's like, okay, Krishna, let's do this. So Malati says, practically speaking, our husbands would disappear every day and come back late to report our progress. Sometimes if they were gone, we women took the train to somewhere. At that point, we were taking care of the house, the baby, the cooking. And when we had programs, engagements, we called them. These became increasingly frequent almost every night for us ladies. What we remember most is waiting for our men to come home and tell us what was happening and what was going to happen that night. Mr. Kohli arranged an engagement for us at the Hindu Center at Golden Green, a North London suburb. This was the first time we interacted with a crowd of Indian people. Most of them were new to the UK themselves, refugees from recent upheavals in Kenya and Uganda. Many of the Indian families were already more British than the British. Some had even anglicized their last names, and Shaw had become Shaw and Kapoor, Cooper. But most retained some allegiance to their Hindu gods and were pious at heart. We became their instant pets, and we were invited night after night to their homes for 10-course spicy Indian dinners and kirtan and a short talk. This was our mission here in London. Please help us. We roll back to Herne Hill completely stuffed, groaning. Why did we do this again? But the Indian community donated small amounts of money, fed us, and otherwise helped a lot. And I took small jobs repairing their bathrooms, building walls and additions to their homes, paid at the rate of 10 shillings per hour. 1 pound sterling equaled roughly $2.50. 20 shillings equaled the pound. So I was getting paid about $1.25 an hour. I was getting twice that as a lifeguard that year, in Hawaii. So he was getting, I just sat there and, looked to see if anyone was drowning. So he's getting quite a little, just a small pittance. Labor. It wasn't minimum wage, I can tell you that, relatively speaking. Well, there were 12 pennies to the shilling. A crown was 5 shillings, and it took us a while to sort all this out. You can imagine, in a foreign land, you don't understand the money. It took me a while to get the whole rupee thing sorted out. You're just trying to figure out the funny money, so they're trying to sort that out. And some of the Indians we met really lifted our comedic spirits. Prem Sayal was one good friend, and we loved him very much. Prem was a flamboyant bhajan singer who would glissade his fingers up and down the harmonium keys, throw his head back, black hair flying, eyes closed, hit a high note, Krishna! About once a day, and then drop his head back on the floor, swooning in feigning ecstasy. About once a day, I'd say, "Hey, Guru Das, do Prem Sayal." And Guru Das would grab an emergency harmonium, imaginary harmonium, roll his eyes back, yell Krishna, and fall backwards while we howled with laughter. These are kids. They're kids, and they're relishing Krishna consciousness. And everything it's another culture, too, altogether. You have to consider a totally different culture. They just learned how to put on dhotis, for God's sake. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Mukunda and I met a guy who promoted rock dances, and we went out to his pad at Notting Hill Gate. He told him about the mantra rock dance and we'd held in San Francisco, and that we were now in London, a band of professional musicians who led public chanting using instruments like drums and cymbals. And he went for it and we booked our first big gig at the Roundhouse for Friday, October 4th, 1968. Located at Chalk Farm in Camden Town, the Roundhouse was an old train switching house which they used to run the locomotives inside and spin them around. Now it had become London's equivalent to San Francisco's Fillmore or Avalon Ballroom. And thousands of hippies gathered there on the weekends to hear the latest bands. We had something similar in our area. Every week we had they called it a love-in, and the devotees showed up for it. And we distributed prasadam, and we played kartals and chanted on the side. Every weekend we showed up for it. Our band didn't have a name yet, so the Roundhouse advertisement in IT issue 41 described our act as mantra chanting in small type below the headliners, the Fugs, and a band called the Spooky Tooth. The Fugs from New York City had popularized the Hare Krishna mantra in 1968 with the big selling album called Tenderness Junction. Their 3 19-minute version of the mantra with harmonium and sitar presented a sort of spoof, but was in fact beautifully done. Mukunda and Gurudas knew the Fugs leader, Tuli Kupferberg, from the Lower East Side days. They were pretty nervous. We were pretty nervous and obviously amateurs, but we led off the show with kirtan, and hundreds of hippies chanted Hare Krishna in that huge dark space. Great acoustics. It went pretty well. We learned a lot. First thing, we needed a name. That was pretty easy. And by unanimous vote, we became the Radha Krishna Temple. See, their band is even a temple. Everything's about becoming a temple. But we needed more instruments, and we would move around more on stage, yell more Haribos. We needed more props like incense, big pictures of Krishna and the Swami to juice up our act. The October 4th issue of IT number 41 included on page 18 in its Dear IT letters to the editor, a letter from Michael Eves of 55A Finchley Road, Northwest 3, with a reference to Jamuna's calligraphy on the cover of issue number 40 and the Sanskrit words on the front page. There's a picture here of that. I went back to the archives of the International Times, and you can find whatever they have everything there listed. So this is what their front page was, and that's the calligraphy that Jamuna did. Sure, brilliant. Hare Krishna means glory to Krishna, the popular god and incarnated avatar of Vishnu, the preserver. But please, please, a million times, Hinduism is a complex and extensive subject. Bring your friends. We chant and dance at the Arts Lab. Admission only 2 shillings 6D for instant mysticism. I feel sick. Shamasundar is not happy about this comment. He's not happy. He's not having it. How would any of my educated Hindus in this country, or the 2 to 2.5 million in India, feel about this nauseating travesty some naive, stupid charlatan has concocted? Fighting words. Just going to let him have it. I sit down at Herne Hill and write a reply, which IT prints in issue 42, October 18th, 1968. Dear IT, I've read Michael Eves' letter in IT of October 4th. He states that Krishna is an incarnated avatar of Vishnu. The Vedic science of God is indeed complex, but it is first teachings as we learn from Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, 8 through 21, is that I am the source of everything. From me, the entire creation flows. As the Adityas, I am Vishnu. In other words, Vishnu and all the other demigods are in fact emanations from Krishna. He straightened him out. And this is also from this is the next page, because she had the mantras up in the front page, and if you go back, then there's a description of what exactly she's written. And that's the page here. I collected that. We too are concerned about concocted travesties and instant mysticism being perpetrated by so-called yogis. The Vedas prescribe 2 tests for a bona fide spiritual master. First, that he be able to trace his disciplic succession back through time to Krishna or God himself. And second, that he preaches only from the authorized scriptures. Swami A.C. Bhaktivedanta, who has popularized this Hare Krishna mantra in the Western world, meets both of these requirements in full. Hare Krishna. Swamiji is a transparent via media. Is it okay? Can I go on? Okay. Swamiji is a transparent via media through whom we discern the absolute truth unchanged, as it is revealed 240 million years ago by Krishna himself to Brahma, who spoke it to Narad, who repeated it to Vyas, and so on verbatim down through time. Uh-oh. This is flickering. It's going on and off. Okay. Down through time to Srimad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, who is the living representative of this Brahma Sampradaya. Rather than someone naive, a stupid charlatan, is in fact an embodiment of truth itself. We're seeking a permanent temple site somewhere in central London to be open to everyone, free, free, free. Everybody was selling mantras. The TM people were selling mantras. Prabhupada was giving it away free, so he was emphasizing this because the other fellow said instant mysticism for a shilling or whatever. He was making fun. Free, 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 24 hours a day for chanting and dancing, feasting and lecturing from Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji will come soon as we are situated. We're urging everyone who is sincerely interested in spiritual advancement to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, Hare, either alone or with friends, or with us at the Arts Lab on Wednesdays and Friday evenings, or at our house, 80 Hern Hill, Southeast 24, any Monday at 7 p.m. Your servant in the service of Lord Sri Krishna, Shama Sundar Das Adhikari, 3 phone 274-2970. He told him. In the same issue, there was another letter to the editor, again complaining about Jamuna's Sanskrit cover. This one from a guy in India. The editor, whoever nom de plume, Devi Dasi, did your September 20th, October issue cover. You can be assured they were not a Devanagari script writing Hindu. The errors were so profuse and glaring that it makes Lambiki Ki yoga, the yoga of mantram writing, into some kind of kindergarten exercise. As a yogi, I protest. Another cover, please. This time by someone who can use a quill and knows enough that all mantras must be preceded with the pranav om invocation, om, or else they are ineffective. Surely the Yamuna Devi Dasis are already consigned to some metaphysical Yamuna river in lower consciousness, where she is a Devi Dasi temple prostitute. Yours in sincere protest. Swami Gitananda, KGO SJ, Acharya Guru of Yoga, Jivana Satsang Mahant, Bishop of the Brigu Order, 12 Rampart Row, Bombay, 1, India. Whoa, more fighting words. Yeah, this time Mukunda takes up the sword and comes to the rescue as he humbly submits the following information in IT's issue number 43. Yamuna Devi Dasi, the calligrapher, has to her credit many respectable works demonstrating her expert ability in scripts that range all the way from Rotunda to Chinese, not to speak of Devanagari, the Sanskrit alphabet. Her script on the cover is an intentional variation of the characterization, if you will, of Devanagari, with a specific aim at captivating the reader's attention and drawing him into the explanation page where the Sanskrit is accurately transcribed into English letters. After a long 6-page explanation of transcendental sound vibration and oral and using scriptural evidence, Mukunda really nails the guy to the wall. In regard to your final statement in which you have utilized an international publication to label my good sister as a Devi Dasi temple prostitute, I can only request you to consider the words of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 12:13-14. One who is not envious, but is a kindly friend to all creatures, who does not think himself a proprietor, who is free from false ego and equal both in happiness and distress, always satisfied and engaged in devotional service with determination, and who is compact in mind and intelligence with me, he is very dear to me. Mukunda, you silver-tongued smoothie. The way Shyamasundar writes, it's poetic, but it's also cool slang, slang of the time. He's just got this.
It also shows the camaraderie between the men and the women.
Yes.
At the time.
Yes. No, they were willing to come to the rescue of Jamuna.
They were offended.
And earlier, they noted that the women were the ones that were together. That the women every morning got up, took their shower, and they had a program. And they were saying without the ladies doing the whole starting the program, it wouldn't have gone on. They were crediting them. They had such a good camaraderie. We keep going over to Chartered Bank to check on Swami's money transfer. Howdy, Mr. Balford. How you doing? Good day to you, sir. You can call me Sam. No, Mr. Spectra, will be quite all right. These Englishmen so hard to get to know. The $1,655 arrived finally in the next week of October. 6 weeks after it had been sent, I got a letter from Swami asking me to immediately transfer it back to New York. He needed it to pay the first printing of his Bhagavad Gita. I wanted to ask Balford, what kind of nut job bank do you run here anyway, you limey scoundrel? Whoops.
Picture from Fate.
Huh?
It's a picture from Fate.
Yes, I noticed Bhargraj there. But I probably said something like, look here, Balford, old chap. You wouldn't want it to take 6 weeks again, would we? It's so cute. He tells you what's on his mind, but wow, what he really said. It's so confessional. Chidananda writes to me from San Francisco and sadly reports that the elaborate deity throne that had taken me so many months to build was gone. Vandals, he said, broke into the garage at 685 Ashbury Street and took the whole thing away. Krishna gives, Krishna takes away. Never mind. Total surrender. On October 13th, Mukunda gets a letter from Swami. In the meantime, I have received one letter from Ginsburg, and he writes to say that he has written to some friend in England to help you, and one of your friends he names Mr. Tom Dryburgh, MP, and he has promised to help you, and he sent a letter to Mr. Ginsburg, so you will contact him. He is a prominent member of Parliament. Mr. Tom Dryburgh, MP. Mr. Gilbert says he can help in all matters of official and legal implication. So try to meet him as soon as possible and do the needful. We had been reading about Tom Dryburgh, MP, in the newspapers. He was born to aristocracy as the Baron of Bradwell, and he had become a radical and outspoken political figure, avowed communist and homosexual. But we really needed a contact within the government to help us with licenses and permits. Mukunda tracked down Tom Dryburgh's secretary, who told him that Tom was presently in St. Bartholomew's Hospital recovering from an eye operation. We went over to the hospital. Luna, I think it must be Jamuna. Sometimes my typing is a little bad. Jamuna carrying a plate of Indian sweets. found his room number and rushed down the hall into his room, anxious to meet this famous person. And there was this old, sick-looking guy in a white hospital gown sitting in a chair, head tilted back, like he was asleep and twitching all over. Yamuna shoved the plates of sweets in his face and loudly announced, "Mr. Greiberg, we have so much wanted to meet you." In his book, Miracle on 2nd Avenue, Mukunda describes what happened next. The man's eyes flew up and he began shaking uncontrollably as he was having a seizure of some kind. As if he was having a seizure of some kind. He fumbled with the cord, which hung beside the bed, and repeatedly pushed a red button. We could hear the buzz of an alarm at the nurse's station out in the hallway. Suddenly, a deep voice behind us said, "I'm Greiberg." We wheeled around, and Tom, not as old as we thought, was lying in bed with an eye patch on his face. Greiberg was cool as a cucumber, unfazed by the squad of startled nurses who came in to help the freaked-out old man back into his bed. Greiberg liked us. We were obviously free-thinking spirits like him. He was to play a major role in helping Mukunda cut through the government red tape in the months to come. After his death in 1976, Greiberg was accused of being a KGB spy by a colleague of Kim Philby, but nothing was ever proved. So much of this give the dog a bad name and hang it stuff that goes on. Try to discredit a person who's in power. The Beatles' Hey Jude was the #1 single in the UK in September 1968. We were always reading British music magazines and underground magazines to see what was going on and how to take advantage of local events to spread Krishna consciousness. One day in early October, we saw a Melody Maker magazine, the most amazing full-page ad. Beneath the caption, "This man has talent," sat a young man wearing a hat, suit, and a tie, playing a guitar and singing into a floor mic, a big drum on his back that kept time with the arm movements. He was a one-man band. Around him on the floor was a trombone, a trumpet, flugelhorn, along with a messy stack of how-to books for writers, artists, and musicians, and a half-full wine glass at arm's length atop a boxy reel-to-reel tape recorder. The text below the photo read, "One day he sang his songs to a tape recorder borrowed from the man next door." In his neatest handwriting, he wrote an explanatory note giving his name, address, and remembering to enclose a picture of himself. Sent the tape, letter, and photograph to Apple Music, 94 Baker Street, London, W1. If you were thinking of doing the same thing, do it now. This man owns a Bentley. Beatles were looking for new talent. We made a quick plan. We could record a demo tape and personally deliver it to Apple headquarters. We spent 3 days practicing together as a band until we had our sound pretty tight. Sitting in the circle around the Grunberg reel-to-reel in the main room at Herne Hill, we recorded a rousing 5-minute Hare Krishna mantra kirtan in a 4-minute version of Govinda Jaya Jaya. The next day, we piled into the truck, drove down to 3 Seville Road, the Beatles' headquarters, in the poshest part of town, right near the Chartered Bank on Regent Street. We were scared to death. And this was it, our big chance to break through to the Beatles. They were asking for talent, so here we were, live and in full costume. Chris O'Dell, a young American girl who worked in the Apple's office, described what happened in her book. Miss O'Dell, Peter Asher, and I were returning from lunch one fine autumn day, parked at the curb right outside Apple's front door, when a clunky flatbed truck with wooden posts and a red canopy, flowers and bells decorated the top of the canopy, and psychedelic prints of an Indian guru-type guy playing a flute and backlit by a halo were stapled on the wooden posts. Half a dozen men and women dressed in long flowing saffron robes stood on the sidewalk smiling at passerbys. Peter pulled in his head, turtle-like, his chin fell to his chest, and he kept his eyes fastened to the sidewalk as he scurried past, right past the truck, into the safety of Apple. My reaction to the carnival-like scene outside Apple office was completely the opposite of Peter's. Fascinated by the colorful outfits and the white paint on their noses, the red dots on their forehead and the men's shaved heads, I took my time walking past the truck. Squirming in his chair, Peter opened his appointment book. Someone named Sam is to drop off an audition tape. Why do these people need to meet with me? Who are these people? Hello, I said to the two men standing in the reception area. I'm Chris O'Dell, Peter Asher's personal assistant. Peter, hello.
Peter Asher.
Peter Asher's. Peter, hello, said the man with the little blonde ponytail and in a very polite, businesslike tone. I'm Shyamasundar Das, and I'm Mukunda Das. And the man with the little black ponytail, well, how'd it go? I asked Peter, and after I'd escorted him to the back of the stairs out the door, they were actually quite pleasant. They wanted to make a record. I think I'll let George know about this meeting. They'll know what to do. Little did we know that the seed had been planted. Later that day, Chris took a note from Peter Asher describing our interview over to George Harrison at Abbey Road Studios, where the Beatles were working on their White album. Due to the release in late November, did you meet them, George asked? Just briefly, they seemed really nice. I'd like to meet them. Maybe we can set up an appointment in the next few weeks. A couple of weeks later, we got a standard boilerplate rejection letter from Peter Asher thanking you for sending your nice demo tape. Unfortunately, we are unable at this time, blah, blah, blah. Never mind, we thought. This is just the first step. Let's keep pushing. We must meet George. Now that we knew Chris, a fellow American after all, we planned a new strategy. We showed up at Apple on a regular basis, even if we didn't get past the Bobby at the front door, and drop off gifts for Chris O'Donnell, and an apple pie, flower garlands, a copy of Easy Journey to Other Planets. We also drop off a red toy apple with legs, with Sri Krishna painted around the side that you wound up and it danced. Very, very creative. Yes.
The interesting thing is that the Beatles were world famous at this point. They were like, who's like a really famous Bollywood star in India? Like super famous.
I'm unfortunately not up on it.
Devotees, he's still kind of getting off of being hippies, new devotees, went straight for the Beatles, who were like the most famous people in the world at that time. That's what Shyamasundar, when he talks, he says, don't be shy, go for the rhinoceros. But they just went, we're going to see the Beatles. They didn't start little, they were the Beatles. And they got right in. Amazing.
It is amazing. It is truly amazing. Shoot for the top. Like Prabhupada said, what great men do, common men follow. So it's just it's so lovely. And we were reading earlier how Shyamasundar took a week to convince his best friends that they were going to go to London to meet the Beatles. That was his thing from the beginning. We're going to go to London and meet the Beatles. And they were just fully convinced of it, fully confident. Never mind, we thought, let's just keep pushing. We must meet George. Well, we just read all that. So we dropped a red toy apple with legs, Sri Krishna painted around the side, that you wound it up and it danced. We were convinced that this was Krishna's playful sport. It was just a matter of time until we met George and all our dreams would come true. We met the owners of Yin Yang Macrobiotic Restaurant just off Bayswater Road, and they also invited us to have kirtan there one night a week on Tuesdays from 7 to 9. We got a good meal out of it too. So both Arts Lab and the Yin Yang became our rehearsal stages. Mukunda and Yamuna composed the melodies together, and Yamuna researched the Sanskrit words, listening to Swamiji's tapes, and wrote down the mantras so we could memorize them. Mukunda was the only one of us who could play the mridanga, and as a concert pianist, he trained Yamuna on the harmonium. Gurudas became an expert kartal player, making them sizzle like Swami did, but throwing in an occasional jazz riff. One set of kartals was enough for any band. Malati usually shook her tambourine and Janaki clapped her hands, jumped and danced, often shouting Haribo to increase the excitement. Janaki also strummed a tambourine, a tambura borrowed on occasion from Panditji. Panditji, in the course of his travels about London, Mukunda had befriended an Indian musician named Pandit Shrika. Panditji was an expert on the sitar and a number of other Indian instruments, and he often attended our kirtans. He was humble to the point of self-effacing, super gentle and noble, very much like Ravi Shankar. Mukunda's imitation of Pandit Shrika had us rolling on the floor. Ah, yes, too much. Dee, 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 da, da, da. More, it should be dee, da, dee, dee, da, dum. Almost falling asleep. He's so relaxed. One time back in San Francisco, Mukunda had played a record of some weird Indian string instrument called the Dilruba. He called it, and the eerie sound had haunted him. It had some I had some training on the violin when I was 10 to 12, so I asked Pandit Shrika if I could get me the Dilruba. He said he couldn't, but he had an esraj, a similar stringed instrument played with a bow like a violin, but with the bass held in your lap and the fingerboard held upright like a cello. So I bought it from him, and he taught me the basics: 4 main metal strings and 15 sympathetic strings. Nice. You could slide your fingers up and down the frets, bend the sound, called the meend in Indian music. At that time of our lives, the youth were hugely into jamming. Everybody had instruments. I was playing the mandolin at that time. And the recorder, the flute. Jagarini played the guitar. Everywhere you would get together and have like hootenannies, where you would play music and sing. And we'd all get together and play music and sing, jam sessions. That was a sign of the times. It was a total sign. We would all get around and do that like almost daily. So they're fine tuning it. And everyone, like there was so many bands out of garages going on too. And people were really into music, really hugely into music. It was a sign of the times. We bought a little pickup mic, and if we were on stage somewhere, we'd plug the esraj into the house amplifier. It added exotic resonance and a little variety to our band. We did mostly Hare Krishna mantra, of course, using the 2 melodies, the regular and the morning tune taught to us by Swamiji. We also learned the Vandeham prayers, which we call prayer to the spiritual master. We did Govinda Jaya Jaya, and later, after Jamuna taught us the opening verses to Brahma Samhita, we cooked up a song called Govindam, later shortened it to Govinda. Mukunda worked out some catchy melodies, and that was it, our repertoire. Practicing, getting ready. After a month or 6 weeks wandering all over London, we could see that to start a vibrant, important temple here in the style of San Francisco would not be easy. We couldn't just rent a cheap storefront in some remote suburb and expect to attract potential devotees. The hippies, young devotee material, were scattered around the city. There was no Haight-Ashbury or Lower East Side, no neighborhood that was packed with hippies. Challenge. Places like the Arts Lab were successful because they were in central London, where people often traveled anywhere to shop or for entertainment. Regular Londoners still had a sense of going downtown. The Indian community urged us to open a temple in the suburbs, and with their help, but Swamiji wanted to attract English boys and girls. After many discussions, we agreed unanimously the Swami's temple has to be in the center of London, as close to Piccadilly as possible, like a magnet attracting iron particles. Swamiji's letters, like the one to Shivananda, who had gone to Berlin, dated October 10th, 1968, spurred us on. So the boys and girls from San Francisco who were in London, they're doing their best, but till now, they have not been able to find a house on rent. I'm surprised that in Germany you could find out a place without difficulty, and why there are so many difficulties in London, so that in spite of being a strong group of 6 persons headed by Mukunda and Shyamasundar, they could not find out a house in London, whereas you alone have already opened ISKCON Radhakrishna Temple in Berlin. Whoop. Now the challenge. Swami made sure we saw the letter, enclosed a copy of it in his letter to me of the same date. You'll be glad to know that Sridhar Shridananda has already opened our Radhakrishna ISKCON Radhakrishna Temple in Berlin. A copy of the letter, which I am sending just now to him, is also enclosed herein. Please find. I do not know why there is so much difficulty in finding our London house on rent. Pressure from Swami. Almost every day, at least one of us would be jotting down the 4 numbers from to let signs and looking at empty buildings in central London. But downtown London was just so huge, and these places were so expensive that we kept drawing blanks. Living out in Herne Hill, we spent so much time traveling back and forth to London. So when Guru Das announced one day that he had met Nigel Samuel, the owner of a building in the heart of town, and that Nigel had said we might be able to move into that building, we were elated. Way to go, Guru Das. 22 Betterton Street, 4 stories high, with the basement served as the office for the International Times newspaper. It was around the corner from the Arts Lab and Covent Garden, and a 10-minute walk from Piccadilly. By October 1st, the IT had moved to 27 Endell Street, a few blocks away, and now the building was empty. Well, not exactly empty. IT still had an office in the basement, and piles of old, unsold back issues filled the ground floor. Nigel had an office on the 4th floor, and Michael X in his London branch of Black Liberation Army had moved into the 2nd and 3rd floors. All 6 of us and the baby immediately went to see Nigel in his posh penthouse apartment in Tottenham Court Road. The Samuels were one of the wealthiest families in the UK. We made our plea. It was after dark, and the sun had gone down over the yard arm, as they say, and Nigel was feeling no pain. Whether it was that or our heartfelt presentation, Nigel sympathized with us completely and said he would ask Michael X to leave and we could have the place rent-free. We wanted to keep his office on the top floor, but we could have the bottom 3 floors. Guru Das was the liaison with Michael X. We had known some of the Black Power people in Manhattan, so he went down to Betterton every day to hurry them along, make sure they got out of the place. After several frustrating days, Guru Das said, maybe if we all go down and talk to Michael X, he'll leave. Keep in mind, they had already had things with the Hells Angels in San Francisco, confrontations. And we were an oddity. We weren't socially accepted yet. They called us bala heads in Hawaii, bald heads. They made fun of us. So these guys had a lot of guts. They had a lot of courage, Guru Das is a big fellow, and he stands on the sidewalk in Betterton Street in a heavy overcoat, getting his New York tough guy act, poking Michael X in the chest and shouting, "You got to get out of there, man." Michael is from Trinidad. He huddled behind Guru Das as his we huddled behind Guru Das as his backup team, like maybe Malati's got a gun in her diaper bag. Whatever, it worked. Can you imagine? Now, footnote, the Black Liberation Army vacated, and the next day we started moving into 22 Betterton Street. By the end of October 1968, we were living in the heart of London. Michael X was convicted of murder in 1972. In 1975, he was executed by hanging in the Port of Spain Royal Jail. Yikes. These are the guys that they pushed out. Yeah, no, these are the guys that were like, you got to get out of here. So just look at the courage. A lot of courage there. The Betterton Street building was basically a warehouse. Each floor was just one big room, maybe 50 by 50 square, and the only toilet was off the stairwell between the ground and second floors. Nigel seldom came to his office on the 4th floor, so Guru Das and Yamuna moved up there. Mukunda and Janaki occupied the 3rd floor. We kept the 2nd floor as our temple and common room and crashed on the floor there at night in a sleeping bag. And I think, yeah, I just have to do a teeny bit of this one because it's, Malati's created a little bedroom for herself out of a cardboard box, so I just have to do that one. On the ground floor, I stocked the old ITs along one wall and drove the Fordson through the delivery door to park it inside overnight. The babies' feeding times were at odd hours, so to avoid disturbing the others, Malati built a bedroom for herself and Saraswati to one side of the parked truck. She found a discarded cardboard refrigerator crate on the street, hauled it in, carved an opening on one side, laid down blankets, and that's where they slept at night. Now, is that not the pioneer spirit? I just had to, that's pioneer. She's got a brand new baby, and she's sleeping in a refrigerator in a refrigerator box.
Cardboard box.
Huge cardboard box on the ground floor. That's surrender. That's sacrifice. That's love.
Yeah.
That's love. There's a lot of love there. Very, very ready to do anything to serve Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. To be continued. Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama.